Hello guys, it's Stephen here, back with another video, and it's back with another podcast with The Athletic. I've got a good friend of mine actually, Danny Taylor. We go back a long way, well before the world of football and all that kind of stuff. I actually sent him a link a long time ago asking him to listen to my band, and a few years forward, he's a lot better than I am. Definitely a lot better talking about football than I am, and he's here today. But before I go into all that kind of stuff, I want to say, if you don't know by now, I am partnered with The Athletic, which is the new home of football writing. That's what they call it, and it's probably true. It definitely is true actually. It's an incredible team of world-class writers, which this guy is definitely a part of. Easily, genuinely, like my favourite writer in football, and that's not just kissing your ass because you sat next to me. I genuinely think it's true, and you've won awards to verify that. But it's got loads of great writers, including obviously your very own Sam Lee, like Michael Cox, David Ornstein, Rafa Honigstein, and absolutely loads of kind of local coverage and in-depth coverage. You can get 50% off now in the link in the description below. athletic.co.uk/Esteemed Kompany. No ads, no pop-ups, all that kind of stuff, and a month's free trial, and it works out about $250 a year after that point. So it's really good. I can recommend it. And Danny is here joining us today. Thank you, Danny. Thank you.
My pleasure.
It's good to have you on the channel. Finally.
Yeah.
We go back a long way. We've known each other because Danny's a fan of my band. Well, ex-band, sadly, rest in peace. And I once kind of opportunistically said, I was following Danny on Twitter. I went, can you listen to my band, see what you think? Because I know you're big into your indie music and all that kind of stuff. And you were like, you're really good. So, yeah.
I have to say, it's one of, and we've talked about this before we started this. It's one of my eternal regrets musically that Embers didn't become as massive as they should have been.
Yeah.
They're still, I mean, we've just been through my playlist there, and
This is actually true.
I can't quite work it out, but it's
a shame,
and it will always kill me. Probably, but not quite as much as you.
But we wouldn't be sat here right now. So every cloud has a silver lining.
Well, you'd have forgotten me. Is that what I'm saying?
No, you'd been at the front. You'd have been one of those guys. Can I have guest list? And I'm like, go on then, Danny. No, but Danny's obviously joined The Athletic. How are you finding it so far? Because it's different. It has sent shockwaves. And I was actually listening to a podcast with your own the other day about the business and all that kind of stuff. And it's a fascinating endeavour. Like, and how's it going? Are you enjoying it?
Well, you would probably think I was bound to say this, but I'm loving it, to be honest.
Yeah.
I did 19 years at The Guardian, and
19 years.
Yeah, and it was. Don't get me wrong, I've got nothing bad to say about them, but it was good to get out, sort of challenge myself, with something a bit different, and working with really talented people. I mean, there's 50 of us, 50 football journalists. So I think you just said there. I mean, I'm a journalist, not a salesman, but I mean, £2.50 a month. You've got. You've got for City, you've got Sam Lee, who is brilliant with the City stuff, but across the board basically, every club's covered. It's they're putting all sorts of resources into it, podcasts, all sorts of stuff coming out next year. So I know people getting sick of people saying this, but it is the best place to go for football. I
was accustomed before these guys got involved in my channel anyway. So like I genuinely have honesty. Like I bought it, and I remember reading it when I was traveling to Spain for a friend's wedding, and I remember reading the articles and thinking, you can almost sense the relief in the writers. They're not trying to hit too many deadlines. They're trying to actually write about something interesting.
Going to matches these days, basically everyone knows what happens at match reports. They're not dead, but they're a dying art, basically.
Yeah.
So I went to, just before I started, I went to the Liverpool in the Super Cup. It goes to extra time. My deadline is 10 minutes before the final whistle. So my work, I've gone to Istanbul. My work there basically is done at 80 minutes for the vast majority of our readers. And there's no professional pride in knowing that basically your intro there is, the game was heading into an injury to people. People are picking up the paper thinking this is crap. Basically, it's just I can read on Twitter within. I can follow every big game's on TV now anyway.
Yeah,
there's the internet. It's just So The Athletic, they want you to look at things from a different angle. Be adventurous. Take a risk.
I guess enjoy why you got into journalism in the first place.
And it is it's my idea of journalism. Basically take time with things. Don't just splurge them out. You after a certain amount of time, you can write a match report sort of blindfolded. If you find he's using the same terminology, you've only got a certain amount of space. It's you're on deadline. You don't really get thinking time. Your head's down during the game. Basically, without sounding too pathetic, I ended up doing my neck last season. It's kind of put like a nerve in my back because I'm just constantly like that in my head. Yeah, just kind of
the devolution of man again.
I brought a snood here. I walk around with a snood now.
He actually does look like a snood.
I do. Yes.
Balotelli inspired, I'm sure.
Well, it's just I think some of the work on there, every day you look at it, and one of my colleagues said to me, every day you look at it, and look, I'm an old newspaper man, so I don't mean this negatively about newspapers. So every day you look at it and you think, that's just so much better than I can find in all the newspapers put together. It's just, there's so many different things to read. There's, some of the people saying there's too much to read, but it's better that way than not.
Yeah, and especially the quality remains good. And this is not just obviously just a case of just trying to like kiss the arse and all that kind of stuff, but I genuinely enjoy reading it, so it's a good bargain. So Manchester City, basically, they've changed a lot. Now, Danny, I think you're like the longest serving reporter of Manchester City or whatever, something like that. It's 1998 you started reporting. It's probably a good time to mention this, given the fact that City today, as I'm recording this, have announced that they've just put another club into their portfolio of, as one of your writers yesterday called it, the Disney of Manchester City football. They've just signed Mumbai City to the City Football Group. That's crazy. You think where we were, 20 years ago. Yeah. And now it's this. It just feels so different.
Yeah, well, I came up here in '98, so I'm from Nottingham originally, and I came up because I was given a job at a freelance agency, and obviously, the Northwest is so many football teams up here, but so City were in the old third division basically. Yeah. And they were training at Platt Lane, which I thought was quite impressive because I'd never really been to a football club's training ground before. I remember saying to Joe Royle was the manager.
Yeah, it's fun, isn't it? The first time you go on.
It's
even
great.
The first time I won as well. I was like,
it's exciting, But Joe Royle was the manager. I remember saying to him, I like this place, and he just looked at me like I was an idiot because it was the facility. There was dog shit everywhere. There's there's drunks walking. I think Paul Lake talks about it in his book.
I don't think much has changed around that.
Well,
I just love the place.
It was good fun, but basically just in terms of the difference between the two, Joe Royle was a manager. He had a fridge in his office with which I don't think was turned on, but it was just full of like cans of cider. so basically, he'd have a warm can of cider after every game, and he had a drinks coaster that was like sort of had it was in the design of a panic button, so it said panic, so it was a big red button. Basically,
please say that was already there when you got there.
It was, But I really enjoyed covering. Joe was great, but basically,
nice guy, isn't he?
Great guy. And I used to walk into Platt Lane anytime I wanted, and because I was one of maybe 3 or 4 journalists that kind of was covering the team at that time. Yeah. So 98, it's the season United do the treble, and win obviously the European Cup. City. It's one of the probably the lowest point of City's entire existence, and you could tell. I just walk in there. There was no, there's nobody on the gate. Excuse me. There was nobody on the gate. There's no press officer you had to ring. You'd go in there. All the players were good. They're all really good lads. And to be honest, I preferred it those days because nowadays you're kept a long arm's length away. So there was like Jamie Pollock, Paul Dickoff.
That was one of the teams because I was about 13, 14 around then. So that's the age where you start to really remember everything. So I remember that team like the back of my hand.
They were great, and basically, it was the days as a journalist where they would all give you your phone numbers. I can remember Sean Wright Phillips was there, and I just remember looking at this kid basically who had snot running down his both nostrils, like my son did when he was about 6. And he was tiny, and basically talking to him, and that ending up being like, obviously Sean Wright Phillips had a great career, and just but really good. I remember giving Paul Dickoff a lift home one time, and he persuaded us to basically go in the old Four Seasons, and I'm it's midday or whatever after training, and he's sitting there like chugging a fag, couple of pints, and I'm just sitting. This is
Berbatov was from that era, but not from that era. Wasn't
this
he?
is the time we could smoke inside.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of feeling a bit of an old fart here. So
I remember that as well. So don't worry about it. I remember.
So in terms of where they've come from, I covered City during the Taxian era, and then when Gary Cook came, I was talking about this the other day with some, when Gary Cook's first sort of press event was like being at school where you try not to catch the other journalist's eyes because he was saying stuff that you just wanted to start roaring with laughter.
He had to learn, didn't he? Very quickly.
But some of the stuff he said was all true. He was basically talking about City will become bigger and better than United, and we're all like kind of, oh mate, just please, just be careful. You're the chief executive of this football club now. Chairman, and you're opening yourself here to ridicule. Now, maybe not bigger, but they're now worth more, and they're certainly miles better. And
I mean, the question's on the table now, isn't it? Put it that way. In terms of the fan base, it's not there. I agree with that. The
fan base thing's an entirely different issue. But
the City are powerful now, aren't they? They really are.
What we saw is sort of this slightly kind of this guy who didn't really know much about football and stuff. Basically,
was he from Nike? That was right, wasn't it?
And he talked in a different kind of language to us. But because his background had been perfect normal. But the first thing he said to us was, you guys, I've been looking forward to throwing a net over you, and we were all like, all right, Gary, that's it. And as I say, it was like being at school and trying to avoid each other's eyes in case one of us just started laughing. And we all know the guy an apology now, because he was right and we were wrong. City have become a monster in their own right, and
it's weird. It's weird from my angle.
There are things I don't quite like about it. I quite like the, I've got, I live in Manchester. I've got mates who stopped going because they find this, City have turned it a little bit into the United of, there's similarities the way. There's definitely they've become a lot of the things that old City fans maybe didn't want. That said, it's the best football any City's fan. Probably the best football I've seen. I've been watching all teams. Maybe. I mean, United was a great. Arsenal when Wenger. Arsenal at one point were brilliant.
I used to watch them on too and naff just because it was fun to watch them.
Barcelona are always the team you look forward to watching. Barcelona under Pep were the. Basically...
Is it the 13-14... Not 13-14 side. Which one? It was 11-12 side, was it, where they just,
I'm terrible with dates.
I think it was the one... It's the Champions League final which United, where that team, that side was it was astonishing.
Yeah,
it was astonishing.
My colleague Adam Crafton went out to Ecuador... This is what I mean about doing things a bit different. Went out to Ecuador and had a couple of days with Antonio Valencia.
Yeah.
And Valencia's got the shirt from that final. And it struck Adam, it's unusual to have a shirt from a losing final, And Valencia was like, well, that was Pep's Barcelona. That is the best team you could ever come up against. So I should be proud to have played in a final against them.
He's not wrong either, is he?
No, he's not.
I'm proud that I've seen, even though he got battered at the Nou Camp, I saw Messi score a hat trick. I saw Messi score a hat trick.
It's the one place I get to, and I used to go in the ground deliberately early, and because I used to watch Messi's warm up where him and Dani Alves were just ping 60-yard volleys to each other, and that's it's a few other people do that now, but they were the first two that ever did that, and he just watched them and it's just mesmerising.
What's your take? Because you're not a Manchester City fan obviously, but you can't escape all the kind of noise online and whatever. You talked a lot about how your friends, some of them don't go anymore, and I feel like I'm in between that generation of new modern football fan and the old one, because I'm 34, so I feel like I've grown up when City were crap, so I do understand that side. Obviously I wasn't fully around during the 80s or whatever, but I do remember City being terrible. Then I also very much conscious as an adult, so I also conscious I'm here now, so I feel like I've been right in the middle between the old generation and the new generation. So for me, I've seen the club kind of come something different, and obviously the what we are now is incredible. The football is just astonishing, but I do understand those who do kind of chime for the bad good old days. The days where it felt different. How do you feel like it? What's your take in general? Not the struggles the City fans go through, because that's the wrong word, but it must be. I do sense that it's difficult to adjust to that change. The understanding and obviously the greater press attention, all that kind of stuff, because it happens. It comes with the situation. You're part of press pack, obviously. So what's your take on how it must be for Manchester City fans? Do you understand why sometimes maybe that they can be a little bit defensive, I guess? Because it's hard to adapt, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I've lived in Manchester now since how many? That'll be 21 years. So I'm a bit of a plastic mank. So I kind of feel like after 2 decades, I suppose I do understand City fans and United fans and the football mood of the city. And yeah, it's. I mean, when I said that earlier, I mean it's only a few of my.
But then I've seen that around though. That's not uncommon.
A lot of them are absolutely loving it. I mean, they've had years of being sort of patronised and downtrodden, and they kind of tried to make the most of that. But then all of a sudden, it's the other way around, and so I do think there's the roots of it. In terms of when you mentioned about City fans can be a bit sensitive sometimes. I think the roots of it go back. You've had how many years of United being United getting all the media attention. I was there when there was the infamous.
All my life until the last 10 years.
And basically, as I say, I used to go to City press conferences. Well, they weren't really press conferences. I'd just go up there on a Friday because they were playing on a Saturday. And then I'd ring my office, and they weren't really interested in carrying a Man City in the third division piece. And and if they were, it was really just a kind of it's the classic old look at City sort of struggling in the third division, rather than the media then was. It was very different. There were only newspapers. There weren't what we have now with the internet, et cetera, et cetera. Well, the internet in today's form. And basically, my personal theory is that after donkey's years of United getting all glorified, et cetera, I think City fans heartily sick of that. So I think what we see now is basically just a carry on from that, because I've always found that there's been a slight prickliness among some towards the media, because they always saw that United were kind of put there, and City were just sort of I used the word patronised earlier, but they were ignored. They were kind of they were joke, and they became their own joke as well. They'd make jokes about themselves, and that was one of the things that people liked about the club. Not quite so sure. I'm talking the wider public here that's how it's portrayed anymore. City's now become, like all big clubs are, quite a hard-faced, sometimes big, powerful club, and they're not all behind the scenes. I mean, basically, just one example. Liverpool have looked after Sean Cox so well. What's happened to him? And they have. But that's all been very public. Man City had a very similar situation. They've done it privately. I know what's gone on behind the scenes, and the public face of them might be quite. They're quite a hard-faced club these days, and which they are, as all big clubs. Man United are. All of them are. But there's still a lot of. It's still a very community club in one way. It's not gone. It's not left that. You see what's going on at the training ground and everything around there and everything. It's good, but I've strayed here, haven't I, away from the subject. But
I guess it's fantastic. I mean, personally, my view is I stay away from a lot of stuff, because I just like talking about football. I largely do, so I don't try and get involved in things. And you must see, I'm not going to name any names, but everyone uses Twitter, so you see some of the press back arguing with fans constantly. And my general opinion is largely, I feel like a lot of people who had the energy for that argument initially probably just stopped bothering now. Like myself, I don't get involved.
I used to always try and have it. I enlisted to Blue Moon forum to go on there and actually try and put right some of the stuff that was being said, if you know what I mean. So well, there was one. Let me try and get this right. There was one that was held against me for bloody years. That was basically when Man United were when there was the game against Man City. That basically they were going to have the minute silence. And basically City requested for it to be a minute's applause, because basically they were worried that their own fans would. Which I
don't doubt that was true. Because it makes.
But the entire Man City population at that time didn't appreciate that story, even though that was given to me by Man City, because in a way to kind of help the kind of.
Perception
make sure
of the,
make sure it wouldn't happen in a way, and basically the request got turned down. And there was a line in it about how some City fans in a pub had basically been singing about, we're all going to the Golden Jubilee, which had been on Blue Moon's forum itself. And basically, it came from City Supporters Club. Sometimes, it's amazing how sometimes like a line or an article, can get thrown back, and you think, well, so I've been on Blue Moon to try and fight my corner a little bit, and kind of just explain that basically. I've got absolutely. I don't even mean me here, but just some of the stuff I read. It's like kind of I see a journalist that I will know, and they're like, yeah, but he's a well-known rag. He's a Man United fan. He's like that with Fergie, and just think, well, actually, like he's a Wrexham fan. He supports West Ham, and I've never heard him say a word badly against Man City and stuff. It's just. I think it's. Well, in my world anyway, it's a very straightforward thing. You do good things, you get good press. If you do things that are questionable or bad things, you don't get good press. And it's not like you say earlier. I got kind of a bit. In the end, you lose the power. You can't take on the internet.
No, you can't.
And the Twitter, and also the City fan base has changed a bit. So basically, you used to find. With it becoming a bit more of certainly a lot more of a globally known club, it used to be kind of the same people you were arguing with, and then all of a sudden it's like kind of, you just look at, you're getting abuse from you know, all sorts of, you know, there's a teenager from Indonesia who's who's effing and blowing.
That's one thing about the internet is that you forget, you presume that people you're talking to are the same people.
Well, I'll give
you just sometimes I've been debating people online and thought, hang on, this is probably just a kid in somewhere in another country. Why am I even? If this is a guy in the street, I'd be like, go away, weird teenager.
I've met these guys in the street, so I'll give you one example, and he's a really good lad. I've met him, but basically our relationship didn't start brilliantly. Basically, after City won the League Cup final in whatever year it was against Sunderland. You know, I did a glory City, you know, brilliant, you know, another trophy ticked off. And I put a line in my match report and I basically said, you know, Sunderland just, you know, eventually had could not deal with, you know, the most financially endowed club that, you know, in the league. And basically City fans that I thought that night would be out, you know, basically getting pissed, celebrating trophy. And I won't name him, but it's one of the prominent City fans, you know, involved in.
You can tell me off camera.
Yeah, he's a good lad. But he's a good lad. But basically, you know, look at my Twitter feed, and it's like, you know, getting pelters off this guy, and I'm like, Jesus, can you not just go out and celebrate you've won? Read, it's like 1,000 words about how well you've played, and without being, you know, it's me. So I'm hoping that you'd know that by now that I'm kind of, you know, I'm quite pro City. I'm quite pro Manchester football, and you know, and anyway, the next day, I've never met this guy. The next day, or the next week, my son's football training, and he comes up to me with sort of the guy comes up to me with a slightly sheepish face, and basically, I realise who he is, and he realises who I am, and basically, you know, we get just like in real life, you wouldn't start a conversation like you do on Twitter.
That's the internet, isn't it?
Yeah, and so basically, but it's got worse, and it's also default.
It's 100% got worse.
But there's a default setting now, and it's because of all the FFP stuff and the fact that City have, you know, there's this impression that City are under attack, and the default setting now is among many, not among everyone, is that basically everyone, you know, every journalist, not you know, every journalist hates us. Everyone's out to get us. You know, they wouldn't do this for Man United. Well, the reality is that every journalist would rather have the
story about
Man United, because that is going to get. You know, that is the weird thing about it. People don't want it to be. Crew fans say to me, "Oh, you know, about the whole Barry Bennell thing. Oh, you know, why are you picking on us, not Man City?" I say, "Well, Man City have fronted it up and everything. If Man City had acted as Crew have acted, Man City have acted on it. You know, I think the modern Man City, bearing in mind it has nothing to do with the modern Man City.
Yeah,
they've acted on it very well. If they'd acted like Crew, they'd be getting absolute pelters. As a journalist, I don't say you'd want it to be the biggest story, but it is the fact is, it's a much bigger story.
There's more value in that, essentially. So if United were having the financial fair play, that would probably get more clicks. Basically,
100 times bigger. I mean, look at the kind of public image of Aguero. If Aguero was a Man United player, he'd be in the papers all the time. Aguero is. He's a superstar.
I'm going to play devil's advocate here. Yeah. Is it like wouldn't some fans say, isn't that kind of on you guys that he's not in the papers all the time though? They would say that. They would say like, no, I'm not saying you particularly.
Well, I'm talking a little bit more like kind of Daily Mail online, like pictures of them walking down Dean's.
Oh, do you mean about the general like tabloidy stuff?
Just you know, it's not particularly of, but I suppose, but there is the biggest. You know, we the newspapers. And now the non-newspapers, as I am, you can get data that tells you exactly how many hits you've had for every article abroad. Now, City, if I wrote a piece about Bayern Munich or Real Madrid or Arsenal or Liverpool, never mind, forget Man United, it'd get you know, Man City are still at that level where there's a lot of clubs above them. So ideally,
I kind of know that from my own YouTube channel.
So naturally, as you can imagine, there's probably more of a desire for Manchester football correspondents to concentrate a little bit more on Man United sometimes, or you know, because basically you're going to get a bigger readership.
It's results essentially.
Well, it's bigger readership.
Yeah. I totally understand that because and also bear in mind, Danny's just one writer out of many. Everyone has their own personal motivations. Everyone has their own different things, but it must be difficult because you are basically if you've got we've all got targets at work basically, you know. And I know certain posts or whatever, if anyone's social, get more engagement than certain ones.
I've never had that. I've never had someone saying, "Oh, you've got to reach this target, so you've got to write about Man United this week, not Man City." I'm just sort of saying about the readership is bigger, so there is of course more headlines about those clubs where the readership is at its greatest. So basically, Yeah, well, that really. It's basically,
honestly,
but there's never ever been a kind of a...
Do you ever, like, honestly though, and I'm not, you don't, no names involved, but do you ever look at some of the stuff where you see some journos arguing with some City fans and go and roll your eyes and think,
mate,
lads, give it a rest?
All the time. Because I have to apologise. Because if there's some journalists out, and there's lots of them who, there's I mean, I've got respect for loads and loads of journalists, and I've got little respect for a lot of other journalists.
Yeah.
And I find... So when they're on there, and there are some of them, maybe one or two in particular, who take pleasure in winding up City fans. Not because they're not United fans; they're just basically
trolls.
but it still says journalists beneath their name, and they're kind of
I'm so curious to see who you're right. I'm so going to ask you in a bit about this. I've got my theories,
but basically, I have to. That rebounds on everyone.
Onto you, essentially.
So
you're like
so
part of the media.
It's hard for me to say there's no. Jesus Christ, City agenda. It's hard for me to say that when there's someone being a bit of a dick elsewhere.
Yeah.
And we all get... This is what really gets on my nerves. We all get lumped in as the media. The media is thousands upon thousands of people working for different organisations.
Can I just slightly interject? I get frustrated by that with fan channels, because my fan channel, for example, is quite calm, chatted. Yeah. Then people think, oh, your fan channel, you like Arsenal Fan TV. I'm like, no, I'm not shouting that.
What is the media? So basically, if...
Am I the media? I don't know.
You are part of the media, but basically, if we all get lumped in together, and I've lost the power and energy to basically try and say to people, we're not all, there isn't like a media agenda. There's not like an email goes out to every single person in the media saying, right, let's chop down City at the moment. I mean, I'd probably get on better with people at City than I do at United. United's like a bit of a closed shop, and United, not just on the pitch, off the pitch, are so far behind City. Not in terms of the money they make, but just in terms of their City are very clued up.
I know people who try to do Man United on an entertainment level in terms of like Old Trafford and whatever, and they've said that this is from someone who's United fan, the setup at Old Trafford compared to what you get at the Etihad, it's just worlds away. Like City are so switched on with that kind of stuff.
It's the difference. Just forget what's going on the pitch. The difference is huge. Basically, in terms of not just the facilities and just look at United's sort of website, which is pretty appalling. Their Twitter, their Twitter account, it's so far behind. Not just City, but then you kind of. Their youth academies playing catch up after a really bad time. I mean, the difference is that they actually seem to have a better pathway than City. That's one thing that City don't really. I mean,
as a City fan, I think that's probably fair. But maybe it's because there's a different quality, I guess. But there's also that pressure to carry on doing that, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Solskjaer's big into that, but also it's a lot easier to get into a team like United than it is to get into Phil Foden can't get in the City team.
He'd be playing every week for United.
Absolutely.
He would be, and that's good and bad. But it's one of those things where... But I did on the media thing, like I am like you have to kind of see... I'm talking to the fans now, I guess, and some will say I'm probably being soft in you. Like, Danny's done nothing wrong, so I'm not going to have a go at mate for nothing wrong. Like,
you can be as hard on me as you want.
You're like, I think you rise above all that kind of stuff. I genuinely think you do, and it's good.
But there is like... So basically, if I have to criticise someone now at City... It might be fair. You can. I mean, I did this with United the other day, and I wrote a piece about Anthony Martial. Good player, sometimes very good.
I read the piece actually.
Sometimes.
And
very
it was fair.
Good.
I saw United fans calling you out for it.
Not many, but
a few kids. I think it was kids.
I think it would have been worse to do that about City, the equivalent. So basically, he's a good player. Sometimes very good player. Sometimes excellent. But could he? You can actually criticise a good player and everything. Just. You write something and you're going to get people aren't going to want to see the kind of the grey areas of it. There's, as I say, I think I said earlier, there's a bit of a default setting now among City fans, and I'm sure they've all got their grievances about the coverage, especially of FFP, especially of the Abu Dhabi stuff. Some don't want to even hear it and acknowledge it's a legitimate.
Do you think that's fair that some just don't want to hear it? Like, from my perspective, not like because basically for me, like, and I'm going to explain my position is like I'm 100% aware of the moral implications of all that kind of stuff. But fully well, you're a Forest fan, like, and regardless of where you're at, it's very hard just to switch off from your football club, isn't it?
If Forest were taken over by And there's been questions asked of the Forest owner, but if Forest were taken over and it was the same situation, I know that 90% of the fans in Nottingham would be, they would. I think Harry Redknapp came out of a quote about, like you can have Saddam Hussein running your club, and as long as a lot of fans will look the other way. It's not just City; it's everyone. Not everyone will, but obviously
not everyone.
People will, and then people don't like it. People don't like it riding, as they see it, riding roughshod over the football. So, and I understand that. So, for example, when he won the FA Cup final last year, I just did a match report.
Yeah.
I think the Independent did a piece which was basically along the line. It was.
Was that the famous state quote or something you're on about?
Well, it was basically about along the lines. It was a kind of a negative. How can I phrase it? It was basically about the fact that these games, it's a mismatch. It wasn't a celebration of what had happened. Now I see it as a football fan, and I think people are reading this, and Man City fans essentially. And I'm not saying that article was wrong, but I think there's maybe a time and a place for it, and the positioning of it on an FA Cup final day.
I agree with that. I remember thinking
respect the fans and just basically write a match report, which is what I did. So I understand, is what I'm trying to say in a long-winded way, why City fans don't like the fact that this is clogging up the coverage of the fact that this is the best City, the best year City have ever had.
Yeah.
And basically, so why are we getting negative coverage? I would actually say the vast majority of coverage is nothing more. Is all about how great Pep's been. It's all about, just the way the team have played, etc., etc. Yeah, there's other parts. I maybe we can all disagree about the percentage and proportions, but
I always feel like one thing that a lot of people don't seem to remember when they say. I always think it's a little bit harsh when people point at the fans have been complicit, because even though there's technical truth in that, I do always think, like, in general, that people forget that where City fans were when this takeover happened, and where football was, in general, because City fans were pretty downtrodden. We were confused as well. Like, all the Shinawatra stuff was a mess, and quickly finish this. Like, basically, there was no real scrutiny of the owners at the time when they came in. The scrutiny came basically in hindsight. I'm not saying that's right or fair, but what I'm saying is that it came basically, City fans were like in a whirlwind. Robinho was there, and all of a sudden we were like, oh, okay, we got money.
So I think that basically some fans, it's fine when you say City fans, you've got to realize, everyone's got their own brand.
Yes.
But a lot of fans basically think, this is being used as a stick to beat us with. Nobody sort of said this 10 years ago, or 8 or 9. When was it? 10 years ago. Nobody said this at the time, which is true. Basically we're all kind of marvelling at this club that was sort of suddenly trying to chucking in bids for
Kaka. Gary Cook was coming in.
Well, chucking in bids for everyone to start off with. It was just it was. It was a fascinating thing to watch.
You need to go back to the Kaka thing, by the way. I need your take on that.
Well, I mean, like I said, there were times when making that transition from a club that's got no publicity or real publicity to suddenly being like a massive news is quite difficult. So and that's another reason why some of these things have happened, because basically, if you're not used to it, Man United are used to that level of coverage.
Yeah.
So basically, people write quite a lot of bad stuff about United. United's been United have been a bit of a punchbag for a long time. Yes, there's no Abu Dhabi story about United, but the Glazers get absolutely panned. Ed Woodward gets ridiculed.
Oh yeah, 100%. I saw you, Daniel. Even you. I know it's not quite the same with Phil Jones thing.
Let me tell you how many times in the last 10 years anybody from United has ever complained about an article they've ever written, or even just sent a text or mentioned. I reckon maybe once or twice in a decade, whereas City are very proactive, and City are much more out there, if you know what I mean.
Was it different in the Ferguson era, by the way? Because obviously that's
Fergie would take it out, and Fergie used to do his press conferences in a locked room. Well, not locked, but in a room with the door closed. And looking back, they were great years. Now, I appreciate people like that saying here. People are like, how can you? Fergie used to kind of lose the plot, and he would.
Great years in what way? Sorry, in terms of
because basically, what do you get now? You get 5 minutes. With
as a journalist,
you get 5 minutes of someone sitting behind a in a media theatre now with a load of crappy questions from Sky. Then it'll be BBC. Then it'll be PA. It's just like, the most dull questions, dull answers. The managers are all told what to say beforehand. There's no kind of going off the record. There's no real explanation. It's like someone's played a tape recorder. You know what the answers. Basically, it might sound a bit strange to prefer the old days when managers would shout at you, and there was a relationship, and it wasn't always shouting. And basically, it used to be like that. With people would go off the record. And looking back, those years were enjoyable. I much preferred it in those times rather than when there's Sky cameras at the back and everything's put in together. It used to be separate, so you basically have the newspapers, TV were separate, and those were the days where if the manager had an issue with something, and certainly with Fergie, then basically you'd find out about it. And it's...
So why do you think it is that City, going back to that point you're making about the more text from Manchester City, all that kind of stuff, and you get barely any from the last decade about United and whatever?
Because City are more switched on and more, and basically it doesn't have to be a bollocking text, but basically they might want to explain something, or they might want to put the counter argument across. United just let everything go, and but
do you think that's not caring or incompetence?
It's a mix of both. But basically my point was that. I think one of the reasons for that is that they're kind of used to I think they've realised you can't take everyone on, and basically they're used to the level of publicity. For City, it was all very new, and it was a bit like Christ, this is it all changed with Abu Dhabi coming in, and basically things that happened at City before that would never get in the paper are now massive news, and that's on the whole a good thing. But it also means that things are scrutinised in a way that a lot of City, a lot of people connected with the club aren't used to. And
I think that probably extends to the fans as well. And I think that's probably understandable. I think it's fair. Like, I it's weird this one, because I always try and basically look at from a humanist perspective. I always think like, look, these, for example, a lot of the journalists, you're all people. Every single one of you people, and you're all doing your job and whatever. And I don't for one second believe that most people are out to write bad things about Manchester City. I don't believe that. I don't think it's true. I think some people will believe that, but I think you're just people doing the jobs. I think as with any industry, there'll be some people who are more inclined to be a bit annoying, but you've got such a broad array of people. Yeah. One or two are going to be a little bit more like that by instinct. But I do. But then it's going to be saying Manchester City fans, we're not all perfect, Actually, the City fans that I blocked, and they're part of my team, So I always think like basically people don't often take a breath and step back about these things, and
it's the instinctive reaction, like I say about the cup final match report, is to be slightly aggressive, but I always say basically if when it comes back to the media, just like find the journalists you like, and then follow. If there's journalists you don't like, then you don't have to follow them on Twitter, or if someone does your head in, then put them on mute or whatever. If you think someone's if you think someone's genuinely anti-City,
just ignore them. Essentially,
possibly,
I think that's good for everyone's health, to be honest. I think I used to be that kind of person, and I used to be like, oh no, I won't block anyone. I'll give everyone a chance. I'll try and talk them around. And you quickly realise some people don't want to be talked around. They just want to argue. Then you think eventually I've realised, like, if that was a person that shouted at me in the street, I'd be like, fuck off, leave me alone.
If you're in a pub with your City mates. So at the moment, obviously City have won a lot of trophies and stuff, but the average football supporter, they're in the pub, they're slagging off their team, but then it's okay for them to slag it off because it's their team, but then it's like your family. So basically, if anyone from outside your family comes in and so
your brother's a dickhead,
well, even if it's mild criticism, people take it as them saying, well, you've got an ugly wife, or your brother should be in prison, or you're
Do you think social media's changed this a lot?
Yeah, massively. Yeah.
How's it changed it for you as a writer?
Well, I can't complain about social media because it's kind of
it amplifies your work as well, doesn't it? I guess.
It's meant my work seen by more people. I suppose it increased my profile, which is a bit of a word I don't really use.
My name's celeb, Danny Taylor.
I'm going to reiterate that's not a word I generally use, but essentially,
I'll use it.
Essentially, it has. You're right. It's been something that you can embrace. You can get your work seen. The internet. I like the internet. I now work for the a website,
for the internet.
an app. Yeah, the newspapers. I don't think they're dead, but as we talked about earlier, basically, I very much see this as the way forward and everything. I'm an old newspaper person at heart, as a lot of the people that join the Athletic are, but equally you've got to move with the times, and sometimes the people that haven't done just can look a bit dinosaur-y, really.
Yeah.
It's just, so social media has changed things. There's good and bad bits. It's not really great fun when you wake up in the morning and basically there's going to be like you've written something that you think is relevant, but basically people when people are going to abuse. But then equally there is there have been times, and I know this is cheating, where you basically will put. You can set your notifications so it's only people that you follow you, for example.
Yeah.
So in those times, it wasn't particularly great fun as a Manchester football coach. Because before I became chief football writer at the Guardian, I was the Manchester man, obviously.
Yeah.
It wasn't great fun, for example, doing Suarez against Evra, because even though Fergie had banned me from press conferences at Man United at that time, which shows his level of love for me.
What were you banned for?
I wrote a book about him that he never read, but decided he wouldn't like. So even though I was banned, Liverpool fans assumed that I was Fergie's little kind of leak, and so I was, for months, just the number one target. And Liverpool Twitter can be, pretty abrasive.
You're putting it very politely there, Danny.
So there are times where it's a bit like Jesus, it's people. Yeah, it can be a bit of a drag, but overall, even though I'm telling you about some of the bad bits, the good outweighs the bad. Otherwise, I wouldn't be on there.
Yeah.
My problem is that I'm a little. I've got that thing where I get notifications and it tells me I've been on looking at my phone for 6 hours a day and stuff.
Oh really?
And I'm just like, that.
If I didn't work in social, I'd delete my social.
That's not a great.
I dread to think how much I've looked at my phone. How many times you do that and look it up, because it's just scary, isn't it? But I feel like there's another thing as well. It's like how, in general, I think football fans are learning to live with social and how it affects it. Someone that I know did a really good analogy about what like football Twitter is like these days in general. It's like that bit at a game when you've got the away fans and the home fans and they're shouting across the bar at each other. It's that, but instead of just 90 minutes, it's that every minute of every single day.
But then,
and it never stops.
I've genuinely never met anybody in real life, and I live in Manchester. I've lived in various areas of Manchester. I've never met anybody in real life who I tell them, and when I tell them, it's like everyone wants, as you can imagine, just talk about football and what's Pep like, and my answer is I wish I knew better, because obviously it's hard to kind of it's not like.
Is it kind of hard to get to Pep basically, or is he just kind of off the limits?
Kind of, yeah. But I mean, a lot of the elite managers are. It's I mean, the media these days is a bit of a monster, so it's and it's not like they're just dealing with a small packet of 4 or 5 newspaper journalists like it used to be in the old days. So yeah, it is really. I mean, Pep, he came to the football writers' dinner on Sunday. Klopp was there as well. It's an awards dinner, so he was collecting an award. And I mean, to be honest, it's not a big thing, but it wasn't great. I mean, basically, they all had to hurry up because the message had come through that Pep was only going to stay half an hour.
Yeah. And
this, it's a big meal. It's like, I mean, this is the sort of thing I'll get battered for. But Klopp basically comes and has a few pints, sits down chatting with everyone. Pep is in and out basically. He's like, there, collects his awards, gone.
I can imagine they're very different people.
Yeah, it's not a big thing. I'm not even a member of the FWA, so I'm really not complaining. It's just an observation that it's hard to kind of get to these guys, and and it's a shame. Just speaking personally, this is one of the reasons why I kind of got into football journalism. You want to kind of know the inner workings and just the way the industry's gone, the football, the media, everything. It's just it's pretty difficult. I mean, the last one at City would be Mancini, and Mancini was...
Oh, what was he like? Was he better? Or?
Mancini was great quality, and like every Christmas he'd take out the newspaper correspondence to San Carlo, the one beneath Kendall's.
I used to look at House Fraser, the Chichetti, a little tiny one, opposite Ben Brazilian.
Yeah, so it takes
There's
out...
always football cars parts
basically, it was a long lunch, basically, so... you know, he'd put his card behind the which is always a way of ingratiating himself with journalists.
Very Italian thing, I can imagine that, isn't it?
Yeah, but he'd want to explain to us about the food, and he'd like order in speciality, and he was great. And you know, he would take us into an off the record world. You know, so he'd tell us about Balotelli and tell us about the players in the dressing room. And when you have that relationship, it does work both ways, because obviously you're dealing with people that you like and you feel like you know, and it's just human nature. You kind of you can't help but be kinder towards those people.
Yeah.
Basically, like Raheem Sterling, for example. I mean, people think the media are out to get rid. Raheem Sterling's had some terrible headlines on the front of the front.
I think even sometimes it had been bad.
I don't think football pages wise there's anyone that's got better relationships. Raheem Sterling knows loads of journalists. His agent is very close to a lot of journalists.
Is that Eddie Ward?
Yeah, there's a lot of people that Raheem knows. Raheem Sterling doesn't have any football journalist enemies. I'm sure he's got plenty. I think the culprits, if that's the right word, have kind of known now to strike a different tone, and you know, a lot of us wish that we'd written about it beforehand, because we all know what we're talking about, and basically we've all seen it, and we all wish it happened. But just to have those relationships, Raheem's got loads of people have interviewed him, have got decent relationships with him, and because of that, people, you know, those correspondents like him even more.
Yeah.
You know, so Mancini, I really liked Mancini. Pep, I just don't really know him. You know, just and I'm not the only one. You know, the Catalan journalists will know him far better than I do. You know, basically, and that is, you know, one of the sort of selfish regrets I have as a football correspondent, that you know, sometimes you are kept a bit of an arm's length away.
Yeah. Danny, we probably should wrap up there, because I have to go back to work. Essentially, it's you as well. We've got more other things, but that kind of ended up being a lot more just about like the media and planning to be. But I enjoyed it though. It was interesting to hear not that you're representative of journalists, because you're just one person like the rest of us, but it's interesting hearing the other side and your perception of that kind of stuff. Thank you very much for coming on. Don't forget, if you are interested, Danny writes. You write a weekly column, don't you, as well?
Well, not just that. I mean,
you do general pieces.
Yeah, I do a column on a Sunday, but I have to obviously try and find all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
But please come to have a look at the Athletic.
It's good, I promise you.
I'm not a very good salesman, but yeah.
No, as I said, I'm a subscriber myself. We've generally run out of time, so there's loads more we could talk about. But I find that personally really interesting. If you enjoyed that, don't forget there's loads more stuff at The Athletic. .co.uk/Esteemed Kompany to get a 50% off now, which is honestly, I think, still the best bet you can get.
50%?
Yeah, I can get more than you, haven't you? You got 40, haven't you? I've got more of an offer than Danny, which is incredible, one of the writers. So you can get 50% off with The Athletic .co.uk/Esteemed Kompany. Are you jealous of that? How can you compete with that? I win. But yeah, use my link instead, because I need it. Basically, that'll be in the link in the description. As I said, loads of world-class writers, including Danny, and the best coverage of Manchester City you'll find anywhere online. Like ad-free, no pop-ups or anything like that. It's fantastic, and you get like a month trial and then £2.50. It works out £2.50 a month for that, for the whole year for you, basically. It's really good, I can promise you. I'd recommend it as a user myself. If you enjoyed that, let me know, and I'll try and get more of this kind of stuff going forward. Hope you enjoyed that video. Like, comment, subscribe, all the usual stuff, and we'll see you very, very soon. Danny, thank you very much for coming on.
Be kind.
Be kind, and be nice on that. It's only online, it's only Twitter, it doesn't matter, it's just football. It's just football. In a bit. Yeah, that'll wrap it up.